I pay, I don't know how much, $114 a month for a phone bill, and I made a couple calls to the States, which I was put on hold for a very long time. I got paid like 200 bucks extra on my phone bill. I think it was 270 bucks extra. Yeah, because it came out to like $400, like my phone bill. And I just about lost my shit. So if they grouped all of them in, and it used to be like Bell Canada used to be, that was it, right? Yeah, you had a few entrepreneurs from the States, right? But now you got all these middlemen bleeding and selling and data, right? And there's a bunch of Ponzi schemes in Canada, and I think they're going to court for it right now, where a guy was buying up data and selling it abroad, and I go, well, that should be illegal, right? Because right, our data centers here can barely hit, like, I have like zero reception when I was working out for Mac there, and other companies, and I'm with Bell, and other companies out there like have like an extra bar, an extra 2 bars, which I thought was ridiculous. Now, not anything against the other companies, but I was with all 3 companies at one time in my life, and the extra charges, like, they say one thing and then they bill you for another, but all 3 companies do that, right? The worst of the 3, or sorry, the best of the worst of the 3, the one I'm with, because it was the better of the evils, is with Bell Canada. And back in the day, Bell Canada was like an outstanding company to work for. Like, my grandfather raised 3 beautiful kids and put them all through university, and then let them follow their dreams, and they all turned out good, producing, well, 2 of them produced, I think, 2 and 3. And they all turned out good too. Most of them went to working with computers and that. I think I'm the only one that works with my hands out of everybody. But even our trade is getting manipulated, stripped. OH&S, there's one brilliant company. Yeah. They're stripping our trade away. Stripping all the trades away. Before so long, it would be all robots doing it. They took away, they didn't take away, but you still have the option I'm trying to get away from brazing and, I don't know. I'm a guy. Sometimes it's fun to play with fire in a tight location where you're bound to get burnt. Just to say you can. So they make the unit smaller, more compact, harder to work on. Basically throwaway units, where they used to make them like tanks. There's this company, Circle Air. Those units were built like tanks, right? Old engineer units, like tanks. And they want to manipulate the gas that you use. Funny because they're going to flammable gas. Trying to change the new gas they introduced to take away the old new gas. So if you're not up on the Montreal protocol, it was to get rid of gas called R22, and R22 was in everything. Well, hold on, like even go back further and go to R12. So R12 was the reason, apparently the reason why there was a hole in the ozone layer. It had nothing to do with the old timers cooling their boots off, right, or cooling down a beer with a tank of gas. Right open to the atmosphere. It had nothing to do with that, but it had to do with all these units having leaks and that. Well, back in the day they didn't even use a vacuum pump in order to charge these systems up, so it created acid, but those units lasted forever. Right, so R12, I think it was 1905 is when they started using R12 in the first, I think it was a carrier refrigerator. And then they needed something, and so that was back when ice boxes, like the true ice box, where you went to the river and you put them in your root cellar, put the blocks of ice in your root cellar, and you brought a block of ice up a week in order to keep your food in your refrigerator cold. Then they went to mechanical cooling, and they had these big satellite compressors on top of the fridge, so they were all like top heavy. And, I've only seen one in like a museum type school area. Never got to work on one. But yeah, they went from R12 to R22 because they say R12 is toxic, and it was killing guys of phosgene poisoning. So R12 was converted into R22, which is still a mixture of R12 in it. And that gas was used probably from the 50s all the way to, well, some units still have it in it, but I'm gonna say like most of the units were back in probably, I shouldn't say probably because I the newer units were 410A that they were coming out. And then they switched out all the low temp units to 404 or 134A, or the medium temp units, right? 407C. And they had another one, 407A or B, can't remember which one. And then 409 came in with a whole bunch. All those units got transferred over, and then they went all the refrigeration rack systems and everything. They had a brilliant idea to make them CO2. Well, they've done this before in the past. And the problems that they had was the energy that it takes to do this. It's a lot of energy, it's a lot of pressures. So we made refrigeration more dangerous. By doing this. And not only that, conventional means of charging the system had to change. Conventional means of how they're going to change states had to change. And they had to figure out a way to control the pressures and the storage of the gas in higher temperatures. CO2 expands beyond the capability of what copper can handle. And then they took the refrigeration aspect, well, for comfort cooling and all that. They went with a slightly flammable refrigerant. This wasn't good at all for anybody. Because you already had a class of mechanics that were getting out of school that were 15 minutes on the vacuum pump and then charge it up. Tail light warranty. Cypress is pretty big, right? We've been on the road for quite some time, and it's just south of here's the other side of the park, I guess. Access 1. Oh, we're at 90. Slow her down. Swift current. I think they've been on the news a couple times. Been their major intersection. Oh, it's still 90. I've seen it used in the city a bunch, not so much on the highways. The recycler, right? They go in, they chew up all the road, right? Get it back to its smooth state, and it recycles the asphalt. Not too sure if it's any good or not. Or if it would even work for highways. But yeah, they just do one lane at a time. Go in, chew it all up. If they're smart, they would have like a hopper auger system, so the guy in front chews it all up, spits it all out to the hopper, and that the guys in the middle above all that are doing whatever they have to do to prep the road, whether they throw down some oil or whatnot down, shovel out the bits that were missed by the scraper. And then it adds and then the machine behind it just comes in right behind it and then just repaves the whole road. And then the rollers behind that, and then just keep them going, right? Like there's fucking miles of road to do. Right? They could have 10 crews working around the clock. We'd have premium roads. What's going on in the States. But I have a little. These guys are coming up on me fast. I think it is 110. I'm just going to go 100 and see how that feels. Road side of the scene some way. They might have plowed it out, all the 100 numbers. But yeah, I've been following a little bit about what's going on in the States, and a lot of my friends hate Donald Trump. They just hate him. They think he's a poor businessman, and that. Like, if you're Canadian, yeah, I can see why you say that, right? Because when you've been relying on charity for so long, right, it's the reason why they have do not feed wild animal signs everywhere, right? Those wild animals get accustomed to not working for their food as much. And it goes with humans too. Right? They get accustomed, like, we get all these refugees from different countries. And the way they're brought up is different than the way we're brought up. We're brought up that both men and women have the choice of working, right? Now, back in the day, our women never worked, right? They stayed home and took care of the kids. Now, my grandmother, she works after the kids were all grown up. And I think that's when it started, that it was the norm that women went to work. Now, mind you, it was, you could say misogyny, or you could say, you know, out of the grace of God, they didn't have to do mining or anything. That aspect of hard work, because they didn't have an OH&S back then, right? They you're like, there's the hole that 20 other thousand people dug out. It's your turn. Give her a shot. Here's your pick. Here's your axe. Here's your shovel. Here's some sacks to fill up. Once they're full, your day's done, type of thing. And that's what it was. But anyways, getting back to the Americans and what's going on down there. Right? They're finding all this mismanaged money. I think they're like 500 million or whatever now, right? A trillion's, I think, 1,000 million. And wow, they're finding all this money just being put into retarded stuff overseas. Now, my concern with them finding that is how mismanaged is the money in Canada. Like, we already know that the government, they like to play with the money, the taxpayers' money, and try to molest the taxpayers as much as they can out of that money. Right? Hence our roads and shit. That's a curiosity for me, because whatever happens in the States, right, is happening in Canada too. Like, they're closest allies, right? Like, we share everything, right? You know, secrets, everything. Right? Probably not their secrets, but and yeah, they have like little think tanks going on. So I wonder how much of that is happening here. Now, we don't even have anymore. Like, I think the last time that we had an actual accurate count of how much taxes we paid and how many tariffs we paid and everything on, like, open to the general public was 2014, and I think that was like $600 or $700 billion that was collected in total, with tariffs, taxes, royalties, income tax, good 5 months, maybe. Okay, so yeah, good growing season, 3 months. Might stretch out to 5 if we're lucky, which is almost half a year, right? And if we make double of what we need, then we can stockpile it, which we do. Right? It's the fact that they overtax everything to deplete your paycheck so that you cannot retire. Like, they don't want you to retire. They don't want people to have a life after their, well, let's just call it what it is, their slave life, right? Like, yeah, we get to enjoy life and everything. Don't get me wrong, we're not 100% slave. Like, look at me, I'm traveling across Canada. Right? Why? I had an idea too. Now, that's part of our Constitution too, is to be able to travel freely through the different provinces. It must be 110 here. I'm just going to crank her up. But, yeah, when I was that, the bad thing we came through here, we're all shut in and everything, right? A lot of those freedoms that we had, not a lot, I don't even know if we're allowed to say freedoms anymore, that were taken away from us, which we thought the Constitution would uphold that. The federal bureaucracy couldn't tackle that because that was the forbidden laws that you couldn't manipulate, right? That you couldn't bend to your will type of deal. But I must be wrong on that. And I'm not a political person. I don't think I'm a political person. Right? I just want to make enough money to get by in this world, have a decent retirement, be able to afford a vehicle and travel. It's a beautiful country, don't get me wrong. It sucks when it's cold for 3 months, like super cold. I'm not talking about this 42. This is beautiful. I'm talking about minus 25 to minus, oh, whatever, anything below minus 10, I'd say it's uncomfortable to do anything. And the older I get, the harder it is to put up with it. But it is a beautiful day today. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't get the, oh, yeah, look at these. Those are holes. Those are holes in the road. They're not even potholes anymore. They're born in China. They've been there so long. But yeah, that's another thing, right? Like, we did a study when I was in school, and it said that we had Red Cross in China but everything we bought was from China. So they had all the manufacturing over there for parts and everything else. Yeah, we're spending millions of dollars in Red Cross. talking about. They could do this and just keep going. Thinking out loud, I think we should have a Doge. Yeah, but not a government affiliated Doge. Like, I mean, like a third party that can't be paid off, like, because I know if that ever comes to Canada, like Doge, they're like looking at the States. Oh yeah, we would have put somebody in power that we could pay off. It'd be like, yeah, okay, we need spending to go here, but listen, this was from the other party that's not in power right now. We could probably go away from that. Mark that as corrupt funding, right? And then they find some way to twist the story in order for the people to say, yeah, that was corrupt funding. Right? Or the people that are getting, maybe the funding was to a good cause, but the people getting the funding have manipulated the cause. The amount of monies that go to the cause and the amount of monies that go into their pocket. That's another bad thing about government funding. Actually assassinated by the CIA, which I thought it was illegal for the CIA to work on home soil, which was, I guess, it technically for the United States, right? They were only for international, and the FBI was supposed to be. But yeah, by the driver too, eh? easier, right? Because down in the States, it was like every single manual that you could ever want was in a PDF form on the internet somewhere, and then that was great. For me, that was awesome. When they did that, that was the only good thing they've done that I've seen in real life. But they shut her down. Yeah, they shut her down once the big C happened. And I went back to, having to find this old manual that's soaking wet at the bottom of the unit instead of looking up the model and serial number. Some of them, some units you still can, eh? The ones that are sold in Canada are hypothetically remanufactured in Canada. I think they just take the nameplate and they put their name on it and then they sell it. But you can still get those manuals online. And for like ice machines and that. All of them you can get online. But you get the generic and not the unit specific. You just get the generalized manual. And then you gotta find your model and then the information that correlates to that model through a 600-page document, and about 40 of those pages are actually for the unit. And they're all mixed up, they're not together. Right? While the customer's paying $125 an hour fees, it's probably $200 an hour. Right? $200 an hour while you're reading through a manual, figure out how a piece of equipment operates. Feel bad for the customer, but then again, they bought that piece of equipment because it was cheaper than all the rest. Everybody's probably stocking up. Oh yeah, and it won't go. The savings will not go to the customer. The customer's at the bottom of the ladder, eh? And gravity takes effect, right? Once the person at the top of the ladder starts shitting, it's all going to end up at the bottom of the ladder. Right where the customer is. All those cows, eh? Beautiful. every trip up north, there's always 3 or 4 trucks in the ditch. When before that, it was like, yeah, you'd have 1 or 2. Right? It just seems like a hell of a lot more people in the ditch. And the roads have become more stressful. I don't know if it's, well, not this. This is just no traffic, other behind me and in front of me, right? Hardly any traffic. See for days. I don't know, 2 years ago I went back. I had last year's when I picked up this thing. I picked up the Goose, and she was just the shell of the Goose back then. Did a lot of work. Right? I built her out just to have the bed in the back and a place to put stuff and a seat. Really no thought process went into it other than I had a big game plan and I threw that right out the window, and I just built it as I was building it, and this is the way it turned out. Yeah, there's a lot of changes that I do want to make on it. For one thing, where I got all my electrical and my battery and everything, I want to move that to the other side of the van. On the other side of the wall of the diesel heaters, or the diesel heater tanks. And then I want to rip out the bench, maybe keep a little bit of the bench so that I have a seating area, and then throw a big shelving unit, right, that can be blocked off with maybe a pull-out pantry type of deal. That's one thing I want to do with it. The other thing is I have it cut to the same width as a countertop that you would have in your house, which is kind of ridiculous because you really don't need that much space, especially in a small space. So that takes up a lot of room. Driving down the highway and with my old red truck, had an 8-foot box, only a 305 under the hood, but that's all I really needed. It was a 4-wheel drive, GMC Sierra 1500. Had a tunnel cover for it, and that had a box tent for it. Making the trip that we're making now, right? It's not like you could set up the box tent in the middle of the winter, right? Well, it was 2 years ago in the winter time that I made the trip out that way, out this way, and I set the cruise, and with GM, right, the cruise is like, it's all over the board, right? It's not really, you're not going to get right on the money and stay on the money all the time. You're going to go down 5 kilometers, you're going to go above 5 kilometers, and the guy behind you is eventually going to get pissed off, and especially if you're going through the foothills of the northern part of Ontario there. And yeah, because the trucks will then, as you start going up the hill, you lose speed, and then you engage the autopilot there will engage the cruise control, and yeah, so you got a truck that's trying to pass you in oncoming traffic, and then he has to go right back behind you because oncoming traffic's coming. Play games like that because the trucks are governed at 100, 110, and I think the road is for like 90. But then once you start going up the hill, these things can't do the 110 up the hill, right? Because they're loaded down, and they drop down to like 70, 60. So then you get stuck behind them, and right? They're monsters out there, right? Like, they govern these trucks so that less accidents happen, but these guys don't care. They're out there to make a buck. If you're slowing them down from doing what they can do, they're trying to average out 100 kilometers an hour going right across the country. Yeah. They're putting everybody's lives at risk, and they don't care. They don't care. Well, you'll be able to see it because I think I'm gonna film the whole entire trip, and then I'm gonna put them out in segments. Some will be like I'll speed them up a bit. Some I'll have a normal speed. Be talking like I'm talking to you now. I do have an OBT reader. Do not know. I had it for the Chef. I don't know if it will adapt to this thing or not. This thing's like a computer, pretty much. Right? What sucks about it is you should be able to diagnose what that is from your keypad right on the steering wheel, but that's a no-go. I'm about 100 kilometers out before, 92, yeah, 92,419, 92,3. So yeah, I'm about 100 kilometers from needing an oil change. It is Saturday, so I can't get an oil change till Monday, so that would put me in probably, yeah, Thunder Bay to get an oil change. I'm going to try to book